Good afternoon, Guyana, and thank you once again for joining us for another edition of Government in Transition. My name is Hugh Todd, and today joining us is Prime Minister-elect, Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips. Alongside him is Attorney at Law, Miss Marcia Nadir-Sharma. Gentlemen, lady, colleagues, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, you. Hello, Marcia.
Thank you, Hugh. Hi, PM-elect.
So this is day one after the CCJ ruling, long anticipated. We have a ruling. We have some instructions and guidance for GCOM in particular. Keith Lowenfield has been mentioned in that ruling. All of Guyana and the international community are fully aware now in what direction GCOM would need to go. A meeting was called yesterday by the GCOM chair. They should have met today at 1:30, I believe. And that meeting was postponed until tomorrow. That is so because the three commissioners representing the incumbent had asked for an additional day to study the judgment. Is this another delaying tactic? PM-elect.
Well, thank you, you. We've heard that request before. There were at least two other instances before where they did requested additional time to study the document. Remember when you had the order for the recount?
Yes.
They asked for additional an additional day or two to study the order for the recount. And yeah, this is a document that is available from the time the judges ruled yesterday. You know, it was available for the entire world. You know, but my understanding is that the guys wanted theirs in hard copy. Okay. You know, and I think what is important is whatever they need, let us give it to them, because there's one step from now. And that step is the declaration. That's the final step, the declaration. It is inevitable. And I don't know how long we're gonna be waiting for this declaration, but if they ask for a day, let us live it a day. And tomorrow GCOM will meet again. And it is my hope that this weekend we can have a transition to a new president. I personally, I don't see this weekend passing without a new president. We've waited a long time. The people of Guyana has waited a long time. And the people of Guyana, and here when I say the people of Guyana, I mean both the supporters of the PPPC and the supporters of the APNU.
PM-elect, you're being very generous.
You know, interact with people and everybody is like, look, let this thing come to an end. You know, there are a few supporters who may march on the streets and, you know, try to protest. But when you move around, when you interact with some people, and you know they're supporters of the APNU, they tell you, you know, they're not on camera, they're not going to come on a program like this and speak, but they tell you, look, we need an end to this thing.
Yes.
The APNU has lost the elections. So it's just a small group, and the group is getting smaller every second. I would have said yesterday it's getting smaller every day, but it's getting smaller every second now, because everybody is slowly coming to the realization that the final step is the declaration, and we have to use the 460,000 valid votes. So if you cannot do what he did, the court said it is wrong. He was wrong, you know. So it's one thing remaining, the declaration. So allow the guys, you know, they're older than I am, and perhaps they haven't made a transition to reading soft copies. So give them the hard copies, let them take the time and read it, ensure they have enough light, you know, and they study, and then they come tomorrow for the meeting, and we could have some progress.
So we're expecting them to turn up tomorrow, Marcy.
PM, while I agree with you wholeheartedly as it relates to, you know, facilitating in the interest of, you know, crossing the T's and dotting the I gotta say, it was not unpredictable. Their conduct today was definitely not unpredictable. The realities are for me personally, when I sat through the hearing, the ruling, and in my mind I'm playing over all the scenarios as what next. The first thing that came to my mind really and truly was whether CEO would do just as he did on June 16th, which is not to show up at all to the meeting, and or alternatively members of the government appointed commissioners would essentially either absent themselves or claim not to have received a notice, or some delay tactic. But you know, I gotta say, it's not a little, it's extremely irresponsible of the government commissioners to claim ignorance. And while I appreciate that anybody would want to read the wonderful and applaudable decision and judgment of the CCJ, 60 pages long as it may be, I'm glad that they're taking the opportunity to read it, because it will put some very basic elements of law and questions and the nonsensical loops that they have taken this country through, and the meandering of the law and and playing on interpretations and people's feelings. At least they will see it in black and white. But yet it is still irresponsible of them to know that this decision was forthwith, it was coming, and that they would have had to been prepped and ready to attend the meeting to deal with an issue that is no different than issue that started since the 3rd of March, that occurred on the 5th of April when the decision was made to do the 15th of March when the recount decision was made, and every subsequent meeting of the commission thereafter that dealt with this issue, right down to the last one being the 16th of June. So it's unacceptable, but at the same time, all right, let me get them, as you say, PM, let me get them the chance to digest the licks that they got yesterday.
Well, certainly one would have expected that they would have been able to move forward with speed and alacrity, given the fact that the CCJ was pretty clear and concise in their pronouncements. And we have to be mindful of the fact that this is a government that is taking it one day at a time. For every day that they can remain in office, there's some amount of hope left somewhere in that cabal where they believe that if we can hold on to another day, another weekend, another day, another weekend, that's a week. You multiply that several times over, you have several weeks, and that is how they've been allowed. That's how they were able to maintain that type of momentum. And every time we have a clear pathway towards a declaration, GCOM commissioners are once again part of the problem. So let's hope that we can have this matter resolved. Let's hope that fair minds will prevail tomorrow, and they will do the gentleman thing and show up and have the matter be resolved. Now let's move to the CCJ, our highest court. Most of Guyana and the international community and those of our viewers within the diaspora would have listened keenly, and some of you would have read the judgment. It's pretty clear, but for our viewership who may not have had a chance to go through it, I think it's important for us to go back through the judgment, the key points, so that people can be fully appraised to what is expected of GCOM. The CCJ did rule that the Court of Appeal did not have jurisdiction on the matter under Article 177. It was misconstrued. It is important for us to understand that, because when we look at the background to all of this, we saw the APNU-AFC camp going about with a lot of misinformation on the fact that that was the final court. Marcia, I will begin with you, and then PM-elect, I will allow you to give your thoughts.
Okay, so for the benefit of our viewers, just a couple of issues and a tidying up of what exactly the CCJ said in its decision. Basically, the main takeaways from the decisions of the Caribbean Court of Justice are this. One, the decision that the Court of Appeal made on the 22nd of June, where it said, with the majority decision of the Court of Appeal, where it was said that the application by Ms. David was properly brought before it. It had jurisdiction to determine the question of whether more votes cast meant more valid votes cast. What the CCJ said is that assuming of jurisdiction by the Court of Appeal was incorrect. They did not have jurisdiction. And why didn't they have jurisdiction? They didn't have jurisdiction because the application that Ms. David made did not, the essence of that application did not involve questioning the validity of an election of a president based on his qualifications or an interpretation of the Constitution. Now, I won't even explain the qualification part because that wasn't even in question. What might confuse persons is that the interpretation of the Constitution part, where basically everybody will say, but look, Ms. David in her application said that I don't know what these three words mean, and I think it should mean this, okay? And so therefore it falls within the powers of the Court of Appeal. And the CCJ is saying, no. Elementary, and this is actually written, we didn't hear it, but it's in the actual written judgment. Elementary constitutional law says that what is written is what it is. And Justice Saunders amply described what is written in the Constitution is meant what is written, and it means what it is, what it means, and it meant what it means, right? And so the court taking upon itself, the Court of Appeal taking upon itself the power to insert the words valid votes was not a power that they had under Article 177.2 and 177.4 of the Constitution, and therefore that whole decision was bad in law. And so therefore the Caribbean Court of Justice now had the power to say, breaks up, stop, step back. You didn't have the power to make this decision. And so we can tell you, we have the jurisdiction to tell you that you erred in law. And the consequence of saying the Court of Appeal was incorrect, the majority of the Court of Appeal was incorrect in this decision, was the second takeaway. And that second takeaway is that the report that Mr. Lowenfield produced on the 23rd of June, despite a stay given by the Court of Appeal and a course of action that was frowned upon by the president of the Caribbean Court of Justice, basically says that report is therefore invalid because it was based on bad law in the first place. And if everyone would remember, if you don't remember, the CEO in presenting that report on the 23rd of June essentially said, based on the advice given and the guidance of the Court of Appeal. So if that guidance was incorrect, then your report is incorrect. And so your report has no valid meaning. It is of no effect. And so the third major takeaway of this decision is that the ball goes right back to GCOM to ensure that the CEO submits a report in accordance with the directives of June 16th, so that the commission can make the decisions based on the direction and path of the law.
Okay. Thank you, Marcia. PM-elect, I know both of you and I were not attorneys, so I wanted to take a different lens when looking at this particular statement. Based on the judgment from the CCJ yesterday, to what extent do you believe the executive branch had some amount of influence inside of GCOM and within the Court of Appeal? You have to mute your mic. Unmute your mic, please.
Yeah, in answering the question, I prefer to say that, thanks God, we have the Caribbean Court of Justice, an independent court, a court that is not fearful or not easily intimidated or will not be intimidated by the internal politics of Guyana.
Yes.
And it's a court that both parties went to, and a court that both parties will respect. In the name of decency, in the name of being civilized, we have to respect the laws that we sign on to.
Yes.
And what is good so far, notwithstanding people trying to have their own interpretation, the bottom line is we have to respect the law, and we have to respect the ruling of the CCJ.
Yes.
That's important, and that is the message I would like to send out there to everyone. That is our apex court, our final court, and the court has ruled, and we must respect the court.
Mind you,
Go, Marcia.
President Granger did say I would respect the decision of the CCJ. I respect the decision of the Court of Appeal. I'll respect the decision of CARICOM. I'll respect the decision of many things.
Very respectful.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I hear you, Marcia.
So if we follow on from that, the CCJ has spoken.
So it's a timely reminder for him.
Yes, and Lowenfield was highlighted because he is the chief elections officer. He is the person who would need to do the tabulation in the matrix and present that document to the commission based on the numbers emanating from the recount. The president of the CCJ, Justice Saunders, did mention in his ruling that the chief elections officer would need to adhere to the instructions provided in that June 16th correspondence. And that is very important because that would allow the process to move along the path that is lawful and that would be consistent with the will of the people. PM-elect, what are your thoughts on the going forward, given the fact that Mr. Lowenfield has already showed his hand? Do you believe that he is better informed now, to say the least, so that we can have him be part of this process?
Mr. Lowenfield, the Lowenfield that I know, was always well informed. And I think what has happened now, he has a golden opportunity to correct himself. And as a statutory officer, at GCOM, he should take this opportunity and do the right thing, do the professional thing, do the legal thing. He has clear directions from the chairperson of GCOM, and all he has to do is to follow the direction. And I hope he himself would have read or received a hard copy of the 60-page judgment, and he should read it and follow it to a T. This is an opportunity. This is a saving grace for him.
Okay. Marcia, what are your thoughts?
But it's not just a saving grace, it's another saving grace.
Another saving grace.
This is not the first opportunity Mr. Lowenfield has had in the last month to do the right thing. And I say months because I'm not even going to look at what happened during the election. I'm talking from the recount to now.
Oh, yes.
He has had several opportunities to do the right thing. And I mean, one had a slight glimmer of hope when his report of June 13th properly and accurately documented the total number of valid votes cast in these elections were 430,000 plus, of which the PPPC received 233,000 plus.
Yes.
So there was a glimmer of hope that he was going to embark on the right course of action. He will end up on the right side of history. And then lo and behold, that glimmer shattered.
Well, he's a guy. So many opportunities, and he has another one now. I hope I will use this opportunity to plead with Mr. Lowenfield to do the right thing, do the professional thing, and submit the report in accordance with the ruling of the CCJ. They directed him to use the instructions you got on the 16th of June and go back and correct yourself.
And what were those instructions? To prepare the declarations in accordance or using as the base the figures and valid votes cast at the national recount. The instructions were clear. There was no room for questioning or interpreting. Very, very straightforward instructions.
So, as I said, he's a lucky guy, a very lucky guy, because here is Lowenfield again having an opportunity. This is the final opportunity for him to correct himself.
Well, clearly he must be comforted with the fact that the CCJ would have pronounced, and he now can do the right thing, given the fact that it's our highest court. So if he wanted to obey the ruling from the Court of Appeal, he has another opportunity to be obedient to the highest court.
Exactly.
If he does not do that, then clearly he does not want to be on the right side of history. So he has another chance, and the entire Guyana is depending on him. The entire international community is depending on him to follow the ruling of the CCJ. So let's hope that Mr. Lowenfield, if he's looking at this program, to do the right thing. And he cannot be at fault. No one can hold him accountable for doing the right thing. He will be on the right side of history.
And if he was looking for an out, let's just assume that he's been pressured, or for some reason he feels constrained to do the right thing in the past, and that he was afraid that he was, going to be, he was going to do the, he wasn't going to be doing the right thing. The universe has been saying to him for the last 128 days, yes, I'll buy. I'm giving you a chance. Fix it. I keep saying that no full page advertisement of people of unknown identities saying that we got your back can replace the fact that when you're standing in the prisoner's dock and you have to answer the question of whether you have breached public duty, which carries with it a life sentence, okay? And you have these charges looming over you currently, and the universe has presented to you another opportunity in the form of the CCCJ's decision to do the right thing. Oh man, you gotta be willing to embrace everything that everybody else is telling you at some point in time. You gotta say stop to everybody around you who are influencing you incorrectly, and just do your statutory duty, do the right thing, and get these elections over and done with.
Okay, thank you. Moving to our final statement that should be addressed is the fact that we are still concerned about the misinformation and lies coming from David Granger et al. And if you would have seen some of the clips following the ruling from the CCJ yesterday, David Granger presented himself to a small group of supporters outside of the State House, and he was talking about the fact that he was a bit disappointed with the ruling. But nonetheless, GCOM has its work to do, and he went on to tell that small group that each and every vote must be counted. I'm not sure what he's alluding to, because the recount has already dealt with that. And we've had Norton speaking to his base, and he was basically saying that the CCJ has erred. They have been misguided. You're still holding to the fact that, to some extent, the Court of Appeal is still relevant in this decision. One of the APNU-AFC supporters had a post where he was saying that the CCJ said that, the recount process is null and void, and we're going back to March 2nd results, alluding to the fact that Mingo's results would be used. So there's a lot of confusion still going out there. David Granger himself said that when he speaks, he's speaking on behalf of the government. But he's speaking on behalf of the government on the one hand, and on the other hand, you have the APNU-AFC supporters speaking on behalf of the party. So there's a lot of conflict going on. So who should we really listen to? Why are they not speaking from the same hymn book? Why are we getting so much misinformation? Is it problematic to this process? PM elect.
Well, I would say they're trying to keep their support base mobilized, but they're confusing the support base. The most important thing that Granger and Harmon said yesterday is GCOM now has to act. Yes. And that's a fact. All of us are waiting on GCOM declaration. What they should have mentioned too is all the votes that were in the results of the recount are valid votes. And they need to tell the supporters that. You cannot say GCOM has to act and then you still gone on to talk about, the dead voted and I am here, I am going to continue to fight for your votes to be counted. The fact is the votes are already counted.
Yes.
And it's 460,000 votes that were valid and counted. And the APNU-AFC got 217,000 and the PPP got 233,000. Giving the PPP a victory by 15,000 votes. And that is the message, that is the fact. And right now we must speak the truth, deal with the facts. This is not the time to left any form of confusion in the minds of supporters. What we are doing now, we're communicating to our supporters, and praise the Lord, we are also communicating to the supporters of the APNU-AFC, and they're listening to us, and they're getting the truth from us, they're getting the facts from us, because their own leaders are leaving them in a state of confusion.
Yes.
And when we speak, we always try to communicate the facts to the people. And I can tell you, they listen to us. They listen to the support, they listen to them, the leaders, and they also listen to us.
Yes.
When they finish listening to their leaders, they're confused. When they listen to us, we cleared up everything for them.
Yes.
PM.
So let us continue to communicate the truth, not only to our supporters, to all Guyanese, including the APNU-AFC supporters. And you know what? All of them are coming around to the fact that the APNU-AFC lost these elections, and the declaration by GCOM will be a declaration stating what they already know, that the PPPC won the elections and Dr. Irfan Ali will be the next president of Guyana. Yes. And the earlier we can do it is the better for all of us. And that is why I keep appealing to Mr. Granger, who campaigned on decency, honesty, and integrity, that he should go to his supporters, take off his mask like he did yesterday, and concede, and let them know that the next president will be Dr. Irfan Ali.
Yes.
That's what he needs to do.
Marcia.
I support everything that PM elect has just said, and I wanna add this to complement his contribution. Even if the APNU supporters don't want to believe or listen to us, then don't take our word for it. Go back to the judgment of the Caribbean Court of Justice. And the Caribbean Court of Justice said, listen, valid votes can only mean, the validity in this case can only mean one thing, that the votes are already valid. Because to get to the point of Article 177, it presumes that an entire process, a transparent process, which the court recognizes occurred during the national recount, and because the focus was the national recount, but I'm saying it also occurred since election night, right? But the question of validity has been answered. There is on the face of it an understanding and a presumption that all 430,000 plus votes that were counted at the national recount are valid votes. And so if you as a political party have any reason or any allegation or feel that the nature of those votes or those ballots may have an issue, you have recourse. And that recourse is an elections petition under Article 163. And I need to emphasize this. I thought it was again applaudable for the CCJ to recognize the sound decision of the chairwoman when she made the decision that she did on June 16th to say that GCOM does not have the machinery nor the powers under the Representation of the People's Act or the Constitution or the order that facilitated the recount to allow for an investigation or a validation or non-validation of votes cast. And the Caribbean Court of Justice recognized that steadfast decision of the chairwoman to the point where they made it a point of saying, and I'm quoting, the chairwoman was correct when she said what she said. And so you don't have to believe us out of, because you might not be inclined to believe the PVC. Okay, then go to an independent source, and that independent source was the Caribbean Court of Justice, and it can't be any more straightforward than that.
Yes. Thank you, PM-elect and attorney at law, Marcia Nadir-Sharma. We've had an exciting 30 minutes. I hope that Guyana has been better informed, and those who are looking from the diaspora, I hope that you are also better informed. We are going to continue to update you on a daily basis until we have a declaration, and we'd like you all to join us as we try to put this country back to work so that we can create prosperity for our people. Thank you very much for joining us, and continue to stay tuned to our next program at 8 p.m. Take care.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank you to our viewers. Stay calm.
And patient.
And patient.